Cheers.
Here's
Thanks
to
for
you.
having us. Thank you.
Okay.
You visited a resident's home this morning. You drank the water. I think a lot of people that have questions and lingering concerns saw that, and it's a powerful image. But, I was on social media right after that. Someone on Twitter said it's one glass. Are you confident that if your family was here and you were drinking that water every day, you lived here, that it's safe based on the science that you've seen?
If I lived here, Fran and I have eight kids, we have 26 grandkids, so if any of them lived here, and, I would tell them, drink the water if you're on the village system. But I understand the skepticism. I understand that people are concerned, and they have every right to be concerned. This is a traumatic event that has occurred in this community, something they've never experienced before. Few villages have, few cities have. And so they have a right to be skeptical. What we have to do is continue to test. And so that's why I committed, we're going to be testing, our Ohio EPA will be testing that water every single week.
Why do you think it is that some people just do not trust the government when it comes to what they're hearing about the air and the water quality here? And how do you combat it?
Well, I think one of the challenges is there's a lot of garbage, frankly, up on the internet. And people, go to the internet. That's what we all do. So we just have to try to build this trust over time. And we have to be very transparent. We have to put out the data. And so that's what we're to continue to do, is put out that information.
What is your commitment, this state's commitment, to the people of East Palestine? And are you prepared, and should they expect to have this support from the state for years, possibly longer?
That's the perfect question. That's the question I get asked by the mayor. I get asked that question by just average citizens. And it's the right question because people are concerned about the long-term health hazards, the long-term problems they may have. Look, we're here to stay. We have a commitment to the people of East Palestine that we're going to be here for the long run. We opened a clinic today. We're going to continue to test the water. There are other things that we, may be able to do. One of the things I've asked my EPA director, let's look at how we can extend the system, the village system, to other people beyond that who are on private wells. Trying to look at long-term solutions.
And just as a follow-up to that, you worked very closely with the governor of Pennsylvania. He was here. We heard from him just moments ago. One thing that I think was a little bit unclear, it seems like the clinic here is the only one that's really up and running for residents who have been impacted. Will the states be able to work out having the people that are affected by this but live in Pennsylvania have one area that they can come to? You said we wouldn't turn anyone away, but they were trying to make appointments and that wasn't, I guess, being accepted earlier.
Yeah, we're not going to turn anybody away. What people really need, what we've told them consistently is, go to your private doctor. But what we worry about, of course, is people who don't have a private doctor. We worry about people who don't have insurance. And so we thought the best way to do this was to set up a clinic. It's now in a church, but there's also a mobile clinic that will be around, for a long time.
We spoke to one of the attorneys that's leading a class action lawsuit against Norfolk Southern, and one of the things that he was saying on that first night of the fire, I guess a fire chief from a neighboring county described it as the gates of hell opening. And he said, you don't go from describing it that way to everything's fine in a matter of days. How do you respond to that?
I think that's absolutely correct. It was a horrific train wreck. A catastrophic train wreck. And I feel for the firefighters and others who had to be the first responders there. And again, the community should have known, and the state should have known, the train was coming through and what it was carrying. When you check the law, I was shocked to find that the law does not require them to notify anybody in the state when that particular train was coming through. Yet it was a highly dangerous train. So we have to change the law. I've called on Congress. Federal government controls most of this. There's federal preemption. There's very little the state can do with new laws. But the Congress needs to look at this and take some action.
Yeah, you've hit on that a couple times. But to be fair, how would knowing that the train was coming through prevent anything?
Look, I think knowing the train is coming through is not going to prevent the train from derailing. We know that. But again, having some knowledge of what was in that train for that local fire department, for the first responders, for those people, it might have been relevant and could have been helpful to know that piece of information.
Let's talk these rail companies and Ohio and legislation that you've brought up that it should be stronger in certain areas. They've lobbied against safety measures here in Ohio and federally. Is that appropriate, the way that it seems politicians have bent to these lobbyists from the big railroads?
Well, I don't know what happened in the past, but I think that this catastrophic train wreck should get people's attention. And I think it has gotten people's attention in Congress. And I would expect Congress to do something, to look at this. Look, I'm not a rail safety expert. I don't know what it takes to make these trains safer. But the fact that there's a massive number of train derailments every single year with the technology that we have today is not acceptable. We need to understand, yes, there may be a cost to the railroad, but what is the cost to East Palestine? What's the cost to the 4,800 and some residents here? The traumatic cost, the cost to their the way they live. So it's a huge cost, and it's certainly worth that if we can get some changes in the law.
And finally, there's a report out that Norfolk Southern specifically has supported your campaign with campaign dollars, I guess inauguration money as well. Would you consider, given the fact that you've said and others have said that what's been done here by this company it wasn't handled rightly to begin with, would you consider giving that money back?
Well, I wouldn't give it back to them. What we do with any money left over from the inaugural, we give that to charity, and we intend to do that.